now it's 6. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started here today. Thank you so much for those of you who are joining us in person, and for those of you who are going to be watching us on the recording. I'm glad you're watching us and joining us that way. My name is Josh Singer. I'm the newly minted Diploma Program Coordinator here at Meridian High School. For the past 4 years, I've been fortunate to work here at Meridian as our Theory of Knowledge teacher, which we'll learn a little bit more about here in a second, as well as teaching some courses in the INS department, History of the Americas, and IB World History. Prior to coming back to Meridian High School, I'm actually a graduate of the old George Mason from 2002. I spent about 15 years at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School in Montgomery County, Maryland, which is also an IB World School. And I've had the privilege of being an educator within the IB Diploma program for the entirety of my career since 2008. So we're going to go ahead and get started here today. And just a few items on our agenda today, trying to give us a 30,000-foot view of the IB Diploma program. If we get a little bit too weedy, I think it's just going to be a little too much information. So a lot of things, a lot of the details are either going to be coming out as they become appropriate for our students, or they're going to be available for everybody on our website. And just a quick note about our website, with the transition in diploma program coordinators, some of those links on that site have now gone to documents that we no longer can find. So we're in the process of updating that, and I'll have that for everybody here as we continue with the fall semester. So today we're going to talk a little bit about celebrating the May 2022 session, our most recent testing session. I'm then going to provide an overview of the IB Diploma program and the Diploma Core. From there, we're going to explore the roles of the various stakeholders supporting our students here in this IB Diploma. And we're going to finish with an opportunity to ask a handful of questions before we conclude. So by the numbers, as we start this school year, you'll see that continuing in the second year, these are our current seniors, we have 56 students who started this diploma process last fall and are still continuing on with that program. Our current class of 2024, based off of their schedules, what I've seen off of their schedules and the conversations I've had with a handful of them, we're looking at 74 interested students at this time. And we're going to have our first meeting with those juniors on Tuesday, and that's been communicated out to them that we're going to get them going here in earnest next week. This first month, we really just want them to have the opportunity to get to know their teachers, get reacclimated to being in school, and then get started with this program at the end of September. My overall vision, my overall philosophy for the IB program here is that we embody an image that we're going to see here in a little bit. And that's centering our students and taking a holistic view of the demands of this program. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that through tonight's presentation. I also want to shift the narrative, because I hear it from our students. I heard it from students at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School when I was there. And you hear it from students internationally that, it's a grind, surviving IB. It's really, really, really hard. And it is challenging. But my goal here, as you'll see tonight, is to shift that narrative from surviving IB to thriving in IB. So starting off by celebrating some of our most recent results, as you can see up here, the class of 2022 and some of the members of the class of 2023 had some great accomplishments. We had our largest group of diploma candidates since 2011, with 57 diploma candidates. Of that group, 46 were able to earn the diploma. And the results for that IB diploma don't come out while the students are actually here in school. We find out the results in July after they have graduated. And again, something I'll talk about in a little bit more detail towards the end of our meeting. That beats our 12-year average, so very, very pleased with our results there of the number of students who are able to earn that diploma. Additionally, the average grade on assessments earned by our diploma recipients was a 5.05. That is on a 7-point scale. And typically in IB speak, when we go from a 1 to 7 scale, anything above a 4 is passing and doing really well in the courses. 5s, 6s, and 7s, now you're talking about college credit as a reward for your hard work here at Meridian High School. And then one of the other things we're going to talk about a little bit here tonight, even though this is designed for diploma candidates, many students here at Meridian High School just take courses within the IB diploma. And last year, we had our largest group over the last 12 years, and that was as far back as I went in the data. We had 280 students who successfully took one or more IB courses while they were here at Meridian. Additionally, our students did some awesome work in their IB diploma coursework. In the 3 red up there, looking at Spanish, history, music, students at the HL and SL levels, the higher level all being 2-year courses, the standard level being 1 or 2-year courses, all exceeded international averages on their assessments. On the following standard level courses here, quite a few of them, those students also exceeded those international averages. And again, in some cases, those are students who are currently in our IB diploma program, continuing on into the 2nd year. So let's talk a little bit about what is an IB diploma. And an IB diploma occurs within the last 2 years of an American student's high school experience. It starts in our junior year, and it continues on into our senior year. This graphic kind of shows a nice visual of what an IB diploma entails, right? It starts with our students in the middle. From there, it expands out into the approaches to learning those skills that they've been honing through the MYP program, or for some of our students, even in the PYP program. It also involves those approaches to teaching that our teachers are involved in as we seek to infuse IB teaching and learning practices in all of our classes. And then from there, we get into the IB core, and we're going to talk about that in greater detail in a second, but that's our theory of knowledge, our extended essay, and our creativity, and this is an outdated slide, creativity, activity, and service component as well. Finally, you see the coursework itself. The coursework encompasses the 6 disciplines, the 6 subject areas of the IB curriculum. So you start with your primary language, you move into language acquisition. From there, we have individuals and societies, or maybe more traditionally, your history or social studies courses. From there, we move into the experimental sciences, and that's where you'll see later on we have like computer science lives there, our design tech courses live there as well. And mathematics is our 5th group, and the final group is the arts. And then finally, kind of again, just describing, analyzing this image a little bit, you can see that central to the entire philosophy of the IB program is encouraging students to develop that international mindset. So to earn that IB diploma, you need to be enrolled in 6 courses, 1 from each of these subjects. Not all students will enroll in a subject in the arts, and IB does allow them to take a 2nd subject from that from individuals and societies, from the sciences to fulfill that category as well, okay? They need to earn 24 points or higher on their IB assessments. So again, if you're thinking a 1 to 7 scale, 6 courses, we're talking about an average of 4 points or higher in order to earn that diploma. And in addition to that, they need to complete and earn passing scores on their internal assessments. I'll talk a little bit more about that momentarily. Students also need to successfully complete the IB core, Theory of Knowledge, Extended Essay, and CAS. And Theory of Knowledge is the only one of those that's an additional course. So for our seniors, they're actually wrapping up the course this semester with me as their TOK teacher. For our juniors, some of them will have me as their TOK teacher in the spring when they start the course. Others will have Mr. Visna, and even others, if they're taking it in the AM block, will have Dr. DeFazio. So in order to earn the IB diploma, the International Baccalaureate requires a successful completion of that core, but scores in those components are not added into that 24. The only exception would be a combination of extended essay and TOK, which can earn students bonus points. And sometimes that either helps them get to the really, really high end of that scoring or get them across that 24-point marker. And I think, as we all know, the coursework here that we engage students with in IB is coursework that's going to prepare them for college. I always joke with the seniors that there's going to be one of you, and every year there's at least one, that reaches out in August of their freshman year of college and says, wow, I felt really prepared for our first seminar discussion. We were talking about Karl Popper and some of his ideas regarding falsification, and lo and behold, that was something we had talked about in theory of knowledge. Or we have our first essay being assigned by our professor, and they're asking us for 6 pages. And, I've already written something that was 10 to 15 pages, so the idea of writing a 6-page essay is not only something that I have a plan for, but it's something I'm confident I can do, and my roommate's freaking out because they've never had that opportunity before. So I just wanted to lay out a little glossary of terms. These are things in IB speak that you're going to hear me refer to throughout today's presentation. These are things that you're going to hear your students talking about as they navigate the program. So at the very top, we have CAS. That's that creativity, activity, and service. We have the IB core. That's the combination of the extended essay, theory of knowledge, and CAS. DP is an acronym, stands for the Diploma Program, our 11th and 12th grade students, some of who are going for the full IB diploma and some who are just taking a few courses in it. EE is going to be our extended essay. EAs are external assessments, so things students would complete here but get graded outside of our school building. IAs are internal assessments. These are things that our teachers work with our students on, that our teachers then collect and grade here in-house, that then get sent outside of Meridian High School, and IB examiners then moderate the work of our teachers, okay? And then finally, TOK, or theory of knowledge, I think rounds out the common IB speak that you're gonna hear tonight. So when we talk about the IB core, it's important to understand that this core is a continuation of an IB core that has existed at the PYP level and at the MYP level. At the DP level, the goal of the IB core, as you can see, is to improve the international mindedness of our students, to make them responsible global citizens. It's to help them develop that sense of identity, okay? And to really begin to embody those IB learner profile traits that you're gonna see embedded throughout this presentation in a few different areas. And then finally, the core serves as this unifying factor to take the work that's happening in those different subject areas with their different ways of knowing, with their different scopes and tools and methodology, and provide some sort of cross-curricular connection for our students. I think that's, selfishly as a TOK teacher, that's always been one of my favorite parts, is when we get into those conversations about, what counts as evidence in our history courses versus in our science courses versus in our math courses. And you can hear students who might feel strong in one of those entering the conversation and sharing their expertise with it, and then flipping the script and listening to a classmate who might be strong in a different one, opening their mind to a different student's perspective and a different student's way of making meaning out of our world. So the first prong of the IB core that I want to focus in on is this theory of knowledge course. This graphic, in a nutshell, is that curriculum. The curriculum starts with who are we as knowers. From there, it expands into concepts of knowledge, what I refer to with the students as the rainbow words above and below the knower in the diagram. Above those rainbow words, we can see the areas of knowledge. Those are the academic disciplines that our students are engaged in their other coursework here at Meridian. Below the rainbow words, you can see the themes. And these are the different things that shape the way that we interpret the world. whether it's our politics, our religion, our language, our membership to an indigenous group or not to an indigenous group, or how we use or have used technology, these things shape our understanding of our world. IB doesn't require that we address everything in this diagram, and nor do we attempt to address everything in this diagram. But we do explore each of those areas of knowledge. We introduce students to each of those concepts, and primarily here we focus in on the themes of language and the themes of technology. We'll dabble a little bit here in politics, occasionally into religion and indigenous societies, but primarily we live within language and technology. The gold rectangles on the upper and bottom edges of this diagram, those reflect what IB refers to as the knowledge framework. So within an area of knowledge, it has perspectives. Okay, and the difference between historical perspectives, and I use the examples of an intentionalist perspective, the actions of great people, right? A functionalist perspective or a structuralist perspective, the perspective of the people coming up from the society or the society itself. As two examples there of how historical knowledge can be created. Additionally, we have the methodology and tools. We have the scope, what counts within each of these areas of knowledge. And then personally, one of my favorites, my background prior to going into teaching was actually studying ethics in college at the University of Virginia. And I'm thrilled that they've now added ethics as something that kind of plays throughout the entirety of the curriculum. In TOK, there are two assessments. So our IA is called the TOK exhibition. This is done at the end of the junior year. And then our EA, our external assessment, is a TOK essay. And that gets assigned around December of their senior year and is due in January of their senior year. Another key component of the IB core is the extended essay. And this, I think, has often been one of the scarier components of an IB diploma. It is an individually managed 3,000 to 4,000 word research paper that a student gets to pick what subject area from any of the IB subjects that we offer. They get to pick what topic and research question within that area. Okay? The extended essay is something that our students really manage with Miss Jamie Sample, our extended essay coordinator. They get guidance over the process, and you can see some of that process up there mapped out in the diagram, of picking a topic and researching and taking notes and outlining and drafting. Throughout that process, they also identify a mentor or an advisor here in school. This could be one of their teachers who teaches in that subject area, and it doesn't have to be a teacher they presently have. Okay? And again, one of the benefits of the extended essay is it really is an opportunity with the support of educators, with the support of peers, with the support of our families, for students to embark on a major research process before they step on to that next level and out of our homes. Greater details about the EE, how we implement it, and the various stages in the process are shared in two documents. The seniors already have these, and the juniors will be getting these closer to the end of October, which we call the EE Handbook and the EE Contract, and those are things that we'll communicate out at that time. And then the final component of the IB core is CAS, those creativity, activity, and service hours. So students are encouraged as part of an IB, part of the IB philosophy, that learner profile, to find balance, right? To be risk takers, to go out there and be inquirers. And CAS requires our students to do all of those things and more. Within the CAS model, there are 7 different types of objectives, and students are encouraged to hit at least 5 of those while touching on every single strand throughout the entirety of the CAS program. Creativity, as you can see, is anything that leads up to an interpretive or original performance or product. So it can be big things like participating in the school play, designing sets. It could be small things like taking that time to plan out and a personal journal and diagramming that and reflecting on that process as well. Activity, as Ms. Sample, our former CAS coordinator, used to say, is sweating with a purpose. For many of our students here, that is their participation in extracurricular athletics. And they knock out those activity hours pretty quickly through their participation on the cross-country teams and football teams and field hockey teams, and go senior night for field hockey tonight, and those volleyball teams go volleyball. Hopefully you check them out after you leave here too. Okay, they knock those activity hours out pretty easily. But for some students, those are challenges too. And that's planning on going on a hike, going on that hike, mapping out that hike, providing that evidence. We have a student, and I just get such a chuckle talking with him about it. One of his activity, he's walked out to school every single day as a junior, and he's continuing to do that now as a senior. That's his activity. And thinking about, all right, what's that process like of moving my body, of sweating with a purpose, and thinking beyond just, all right, I'm going to walk to school, but how does this help me grow as an IB learner? And then the final piece is service, and that's engagement with our community in response to an authentic need. There are some, again, hard and fast guidelines for some of these things, quick ones like they can't be paid. This isn't something that you can earn a paycheck for and then double dip into CAS hours. But a lot of students use the work that they might do through Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts to double up as CAS opportunities and CAS experiences. And then the culminating piece of the CAS requirement is the CAS project. And this is, as you can see, a collaborative, ongoing process that is self-directed with a defined purpose and goal that the students get to define. We're going to get the students started in CAS in about 2 weeks in early October. We got with our juniors, and these are things that our seniors have begun last year and are continuing on at this point. Ms. Sample was our CAS coordinator last year. Ms. Shea, who works out of our front office, has stepped into that role this year, and she'll be the one primarily communicating with our students there. So I want to take a moment now and kind of create the big picture, okay? Because I think it's important to understand that within this IB diploma, there's a lot of moving pieces. Not only do we have the requirements of the coursework of the junior year and the coursework of the senior year, but we have the requirements of these core components, theory of knowledge, the extended essay, and CAS. We have the extracurricular requirements that we know our students are engaged with, on the stage, out on the fields, out in our community. And then we have those, hey, real world expectations, whether it's college applications for many of our seniors or prepping to take those SATs and those ACTs in anticipation of applying for colleges. And there's also that thing called life, right? Like, and having friends and having a family and spending time with your friends and spending time with your family. So I do want you to see the big picture here. So if we can start by showing kind of how TOK falls onto this timeline. Ms. Jones. If we could start by showing how TOK falls on this timeline. So you can see the internal assessment's going to come in here at the end of our junior year. And the external assessment, again, is due in January. Part of that is because the course ends in January, okay? If we move on now to CAS, you'll see that we're going to get the students started with CAS here pretty shortly. Our juniors are going to start in the first week or two of October with their first CAS meetings, where they're going to begin to map out what are they anticipating doing here in their junior year. CAS requires 3 meetings, and we space those out over the 18-month period. So their first meeting's here in the fall, planning out their junior year. Their second meeting comes as we're winding down the school year in May and June, where they reflect on what they've done. They plan out maybe their CAS project for the summer. That's when a lot of students like to knock that out. Or what work they might want to do as seniors. And then the final step of the CAS experience is the final meeting, which we typically try to knock out before spring break. So that's middle March, late March is when CAS timeline hits. For the extended essay, we introduce our students to that process in late October. That process starts by just introducing them to the expectations, reviewing samples of what extended essays can look like, and helping students identify what subject, topic, and question ultimately they want to answer. Throughout winter, we encourage them to research and begin the process of outlining their essay with the goal of having a rough draft of that extended essay before they leave for summer vacation. And I really want to stress that point, that is our goal, because in a moment you're going to see what starts to happen with the coursework. And then when we add to that the college applications, and we add to that the fun of a senior year and all the other things, you'll see why we're really encouraging this rough draft to come in before the end of the school year. Right now, our goal is also to have this final draft come in right here at the beginning of their senior year, and to close out that extended essay process before the end of the month of September. Like CAS, there are 3 required meetings for that extended essay. One at the beginning as they're identifying their subject, topic, and question. One in the middle as they're beginning to transition from research to writing. And then one at the conclusion of the extended essay called the Viva Voce, where they sit down with their advisor and they talk about what they've learned about themselves by going through this process. For our current seniors, what we're looking for is their final drafts to be submitted here by September 30th. That final piece of having their advisor grade their draft and then sit down for that Viva Voce is something that can happen over the month of October. And then the final kind of IB component to all of this is the work of their courses. Each diploma course comes with an internal assessment. Most courses have that internal assessment in the second year. So for our IB juniors who are just getting started here, unless they're in a 1-year SL course, it is likely that 5 or even all 6 of their internal assessments are going to fall somewhere along this continuum in their senior year. And going back to that holistic, putting students at the center of this experience idea, part of my job and part of what I've been doing as the school year has been starting is working with our teachers to balance when we're assigning these IAs and spacing those IAs out intentionally so that our students are not being challenged with priorities that they physically cannot manage because there is too much on their plate. It is a work in progress, but I do think we're beginning to make the steps to get that into the right direction. So for the most part, our IB diploma timeline runs from about September until March. And I say March because once we hit spring break, once we hit April, pretty much every IB course begins to focus on prepping students for their examinations. And examination month is the month of May. In order to support students in managing the extended essay and CAS, we use a platform called ManageBack. And our seniors have access to this, and they've been using it over the course of the last year. Here you can see 2 snippets of what that might look like for our students. Over here we have a CAS picture showing the various activities of one of our seniors and how those play out over those 7 outcomes here at the bottom. This helps students keep track of their work, and it also helps students see that they're in balance between the various outcomes. In the top left there, you can also see what an extended essay snippet might look like, and the different components up there at the top, including the worksheet where they're able to communicate with their advisor, a reflection space where they can keep notes for themselves, assessment where the rubric for the extended essay lives, and then finally the planning and progress form where they reflect upon each of those conferences with their advisors. Our juniors are going to get loaded on ManageBack. They've actually been loaded, they just don't know it yet. They're going to get started on ManageBack on Tuesday. That's part of what we're going to do in that first meeting. So that's kind of the diploma core. These are the diploma courses. Chances are your students already in 5 or 6 of these. either continuing for the second year or beginning now in their first. One of the things I want to communicate with this slide is, one, there has to be a balance between higher level and standard level courses. That decision isn't actually made by us, that's made by the International Baccalaureate. So all students must take 3 higher levels and 3 standard levels, or 4 and 2. And there is a difference between a higher level assessment and a standard level assessment. Again, I'll speak from history because that's what I know best. In history, our students have to write an internal assessment, which is a research paper. Our seniors are actually working on that right now. Those teachers try to front load that to get away from the traffic jam of January and February this year. They have to write that internal assessment. They have to complete paper 1, which is a document-based analysis. They have to complete paper 2, which are 2 essays from the topics that they study in their senior year. And then if they're in higher level history, they have to complete a 3rd paper, which is 3 essays from topics studied in their junior year. If a student's only taking history at a standard level, however, we drop that 3rd paper. And that's how IB manages many of these courses that are offered both at the higher level and the standard level. They reduce one of those assessment tasks. Or they might modify one of those assessment tasks, making it a little bit more brief. An easy way to maybe think about it is a higher level course is a course that I might consider majoring in college on. It's something that's been an interest of mine and a passion of mine. Whereas a standard level course might be a course that I want to try out in a subject area that I don't feel I have an expertise on, or I might know is not one of my strongest subjects. And then the second thing I want to share is, because of that 6th and final component, the art electives or other subjects, students actually do get a fair amount of flexibility in here. We have a lot of students who like to use that art elective, that final subject, in order to add a second subject from individuals and societies. Our psychology program is very popular here. Our global politics program, again, crushed it last year with their IB scores, and I have no doubt that they're going to do so again this year. Or this is where our students who love STEM get to add in computer science as a second science, and they can take a physics and a computer science course, adding that to their math courses as well. Okay, and we're even exploring, there is actually some room for a student who views themselves maybe more artistically to actually double up on some of those art electives instead. Environmental systems and societies plays a funny role where they actually let it sneak into group 3 sometimes, in which case a student could double up on art and music. Okay? So I just want to, again, now connect what happens with IB land and IB speak with what we do here in FCCPS, right? So students earn grades at the 11th and 12th grade level. These grades are letter grades. There is a conversion scale that's posted on our website that shows how various IB assessments get converted into those letter grades. Okay, all students enrolled in IB courses, whether they're in the full diploma or not, earn a bonus point towards their GPA. It is a weighted course. Okay, and as we know, as we've talked about a few times, not only does the IB program work intrinsically in pushing students to engage with some wonderful topics that they enjoy and deepen their understanding of the world and of themselves, but there is that extrinsic advantage of how it looks when it appears on those college transcripts. As far as deadlines are concerned, when it comes to things that are for our classes, a test, a quiz, maybe even the occasional IA checkpoint, those are things that exist here at our school, and absolutely our teachers are and can and will be as flexible as they can be to support our students in being successful, in demonstrating their learning. just like we do in that MYP program in the 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th, and 6th grades. The goal is for students to demonstrate that mastery of learning, and our teachers are flexible with that. But one thing we don't have control over are those IB deadlines. And those are firm deadlines, and I do have to communicate that we did have a few students not earn credit for IB coursework because they didn't submit their internal assessment or because they didn't sit down for their examination. And the IB, as an international organization, has found that the fairest policy for them to put in place is to offer as few exceptions to those rules as possible. And so when they set out those testing schedules or they set out those internal assessment upload due date deadlines, those are things that we really do have to hold firm to. So kind of the final piece here of our presentation tonight is just trying to explore some of our roles. And so I'll start by talking about my role, right? My role here is to be an advocate and a support for all of our IB diploma students. To ensure that through their 2 years in the IB program, when they need a lift up, that they got that lift, when they need a little nudge forward, that they get that nudge, and when they need somebody to be their biggest cheerleader and celebrate them, that they have that person with the pom-poms and the megaphone cheering them on and celebrating them. In addition to that, my job is to make sure that all 270 plus students who are taking diploma courses are enrolled in the right courses, that they're meeting their requirements for the IB program that they might be a participant in, and that they're registered for examinations and, as appropriate, having the accommodations that they have here in school on those examinations. My job also involves supporting our teachers, making sure that they're trained in the subject matters that they teach, that they have the resources they need to teach their courses, and are aware of any slight modifications or changes IB has made to their courses with either new curriculum or just in between those curriculum cycles. Another aspect of my role is to do what I'm doing right now, and that's to promote this program amongst our community. And it's also to ensure the proper submission of all those things that we talked about on that last slide, right? Those internal assessments and those external assessments. And as you'll see, most of that window is here in that January to April time span. Finally, come May, my job is to administer these exams, make sure that we meet IB's standards and protocols in regards to examinations. And should students want to have their college transcripts, should students want to have their scores sent on to their colleges for potential college credit, to go through the process of registering students for that once they know what schools they're going to. I will say, as I learned one of my first days on the job in early July, if you missed that window, all is not lost. You can still reach out to me, and I can share the information in July and August to pass that along to colleges if that's something you're interested in. So the other two main people, again, supporting our students in this program are the EE coordinator and the CAS coordinator, and their job is to really focus in on the students who are doing the full IB diploma, to support them and to make sure that they're aware of the requirements of their respective programs, and to, again, pull along, nudge along, or celebrate students as they make their work towards those component requirements. Additionally, part of their job is to make sure our staff are aware of any changes to the extended essay or CAS, that they're supported in embedding those things into their IB courses so that we can ensure that we truly do live that IB core. And then finally, a part of their job is to communicate with me and to communicate with you all regarding the progress of students towards these checkpoints. Our students have a role in this, clearly. They're at the center of our work here. And pulling on a few of these IB learner profile traits, not all of them, you can see some of the priorities, at least, that we should set for them. That they should be principled, that they should do their coursework, that they should be academically honest in their coursework, that they should be active participants and attendants in their courses, that they should be balanced, that they balance these tough demands of their curricular and extracurricular lives, okay? And finally, that they're communicators and inquirers, that they advocate for themselves, especially when they feel like they need help, but definitely when they know that they need some help. And then the final group that has a role in this are our families. It's not just what happens here at school. We're all in this together, supporting these students in this program. And so I ask of our families to be caring. Your student is tackling something that's hard. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is hard, okay? And they are going to be stressed out. And they're going to have days where they want to pull out their hair and look like me at the end of it. And it's our job to be caring and to support them and help them carry through. It's our job to be risk takers as families. With my 6-year-old at home who wants to do everything by herself because she knows the best way to do everything, it's hard to step back and just let her go sometimes. And I imagine it only gets difficult as they get bigger and faster and more powerful toys. But we have to be risk takers here and trust that an adjustment will happen for our students. Junior year, it usually happens around February, March. That's when they start to feel that first crunch. Our seniors are feeling it now. I hear them and I see them and I talk with them every day. I know they're feeling it now. And I encourage you as a family member to be that risk taker and trust that they're going to figure this out and to support them in doing so. But then finally, if you can tell because you know your kid best that they're not figuring it out, that they are in over their heads, that they are stressed out beyond just what might be an appearance of stress, but into a point where they really do need more support, to reach out, to communicate. That's what we're here for, myself, Miss Sample, and Miss Shea, is to help these kids be successful. So on our final note, I just want to again reiterate, this program is ambitious. It is challenging, and our students can do it. Our work this year as a school, my work as the diploma coordinator, is to improve the ways that we support our students in this program, to improve the ways we communicate their progress in this program, and to improve the ways we communicate with our families about how our students are doing in this program. And I welcome your partnership, and I'm interested in doing this work together. So on that note, we'll throw my contact info up there for you. You can see my email address. You can also see my office phone number. I will say email's probably the best way to get in touch with me. I think I've figured out how to access my voicemail on that office phone, but I don't always know that I have one until somebody has sent me an email saying, hey, Mr. Singer, I left you a voicemail on this topic. So email is always the best way to get my attention, and then we can schedule a time to talk over the phone as needed. If there are a few questions, I'd happily take them, and please speak loudly. I'll do my best to repeat it. Give me a nod if I got it right, and then I'll do my best to answer it.
So, isn't personal finance like a required course to take to like graduate high school? How do you take that if it's not on the IB list?
Wonderful question. So the question was, how do students complete courses like personal finance, which are required courses for graduation in the Commonwealth of Virginia? What a lot of our students end up doing is they take that as a summer school high C course, or they take it as a high C course during the academic year. Every year, I see seniors enroll in high C personal finance and economics, use that time period in the March, April to knock those courses out once TOK ends. I'm not saying that's the best plan, but that is one way I've seen students try and tackle that issue of their Virginia graduation requirements versus the IB diploma requirements. Wonderful. Yes, sir. So the question was regarding the linking of things like progress towards the IB diploma and access to senior privileges. And for those of you who might not be aware, our seniors go through the process every year of writing up an application for their senior privileges. Usually those privileges involve, if they're not scheduled in a course, that they have the ability to have an open campus. This really speaks to that support aspect for me. And from my perspective, I want to support our students with nudges along the way to help them be successful in this program. Every year, we see students who do not meet these internal deadlines get piled up and have a snowball effect of assessment and assessment and assessment, only to drop the program by the time we hit those January, February, and March deadlines. And the time that senior privileges kicks in are opportunities for our students to get support that they need and to start catching up maybe on some of those checkpoints and progress marks for their extended essay and CAS that otherwise we're not making a whole lot of progress on. Obviously, this is a conversation and not a one-way one. So I'm interested in working with the seniors and working with parents of our current seniors to right fit this. But that's my perspective and based off of the observations and the feedback that I've had and that I've received from other educators in this building. Yes, ma'am. So the question was regarding CAS requirements and when do they start, and the clock starts in their junior year. So even though we're not officially starting the students with CAS until about 2 weeks from now, if they're starting an activity here at the beginning of the school year, that's something that they can add into their CAS work, add their reflections on, and would contribute to their CAS progress. Yes, ma'am. So that's something I'm working with our teachers on, is to communicate the dates that they have internally. Those are the best dates to follow. As far as IB's deadlines, those come a little bit later in the spring, again, that January to April window. But a lot of teachers assign that based off of the overall scope and sequence of their course and when they have the time to provide the feedback and the grading required for each of these individual assessments. The moderation process that I spoke about a little bit earlier involves a teacher submitting, it depends on the size of the course, it could be 2, it could be 5, it could be 10, it could be 15 student samples of work for an outside examiner to then grade them on their grading. And as a result, the scores on those internal assessments sometimes get moderated up. We were too hard. They stay the same because we did a great job of applying those rubrics, or they get moderated down, meaning we were too lenient. And so our teachers work very tirelessly to make sure they understand their assessment task, that they understand the rubrics, and that they're evaluating the student work effectively. And that's why I can't give a hard and fast on when exactly all those dates are. But my belief is that the teachers have communicated that with the students either in their syllabi or as they introduce the students to these projects in their courses. Yes, ma'am. Yes, absolutely. And that's part of this intervention time that we're talking about. So here at Meridian High School, we have a 7-block bell schedule. And after our morning block, we have a period where students will go to homeroom for a little bit for a quick check-in, and then they have a block of time called Mustang block. And that is when we meet with our juniors next week to introduce them to the IB program. That is the time when seniors who might not be on track with some of these EE and CAS deadlines are going to be invited in to meet with Ms. Sample, to meet with myself, to meet with Ms. Shea, to get the support they need or to meet with their mentor. And again, our goal here is to help these kids be successful in this program. And sometimes that takes dragging them into a session that they might not want to be at while their friends are going to the Mustang Mug or hanging out on the learning stairs, to capture that 30 minutes of time and get something done that gets them closer to that finish line successfully. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The comment was regarding the front loading of IB assessments primarily into September, and the overlap that that front loading has with things like college applications. Also questioning the extended essay deadline for September 30th, when the IB deadline for the extended essay is March 15th. Okay. In regards to that, the EE contract that we set out in October of their junior year last year for our second year students, for our seniors, had the date of September 9th on it. Knowing this timeline of college applications, knowing this timeline of internal assessments, and knowing that students who are unable to have that extended essay in at the beginning of their senior year begin to increase the likelihood that they do not successfully complete the diploma program. Last year, we often heard that our IB group was the largest group ever. I think we heard it sometimes it was close to 70, 80 students. But that final number was 56. And teaching the students that made up that number, when I asked them, why are you no longer pursuing the IB diploma, or when they shared that, the answer was the extended essay. That feeling like they didn't have the motivation to get it done, or that the loftiness of a deadline was too hard for them to manage, meant that they delayed and they delayed and they delayed. And come January, February, when that extended essay needed to be done, they didn't have the capacity for it anymore, and they chose to leave the program. And I applaud those students for recognizing that in themselves, right? For keeping themselves in balance and recognizing that that would be too much for them to continue on with that. And so our hope here in, again, adjusting that deadline from September 9th to September 30th is to capture some momentum here at the start of the school year, all right? And to have those extended essays come in and get off their plate. As far as the history IA and the English HL essay that you mentioned, the history IA was actually originally scheduled for September 30th. And part of my work in working with these teachers and communicating with these teachers is to take that holistic view. They altered their deadline with the knowledge that the extended essay was being adjusted. As far as the English deadline, that was not actually a deadline I was aware of. And like I said, it's a work in progress. Communicating with teachers and bringing us all together to place our students at the center of our IB program. But my understanding is, after speaking with the teachers, that that deadline has adjusted. And I'll leave it to the teachers to communicate that with the students. But when the students shared that with me, part of my role is to advocate. When the students shared that with me, I spoke with those teachers, and I believe an adjustment has been made. I just don't know that it's been communicated fully to the students at this time. I think I have time for one more question, and then we're going to go ahead and call it an evening. Yes, ma'am. It's a little bit different. I like to think of the TOK exhibition as your student becomes a museum curator. So IB has identified 35 prompts. The students get to pick whichever prompt they want from that list. Actually, there's 2 I don't allow them to pick because we practice. They get to choose, but they practice with them in class. And since they get feedback from me, they're not allowed to use it for the exhibition. So the students get to pick one of any of the 33 remaining prompts, and they have to identify 3 objects that display what they know about this prompt and allow them to reveal those concepts from that TOK image earlier, those rainbow words, as well as what they've learned about the knowledge framework. So the prompts might be questions like, why do we seek knowledge? And they get to then bring in artifacts either from their personal experience, or it could be from things they learned in class. The only real restraint is that they can't use the same objects as any of their peers. They can use the same prompts. There's only 33 available when all is said and done. And we have over 33 students, so they can use the same prompts, but they're not allowed to use the same objects. So we do some communication coordination with the students around that. For the past 2 years, that's been something that we've done kind of digitally in class, where the students present a Google document that has an image of their objects with the write-ups that go along with it. And then we do a little gallery share, a little experience of sharing that out amongst the class. As we're returning more and more to normal this year and in future years, we might seek to expand that into something similar to the personal project showcase that we do for the MYP program, where those are out and available for the community to enjoy as well. Once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us here tonight. I do appreciate your time. I do appreciate your questions. My contact information is right up there. Email is always the best way to get in touch with me, but please do not hesitate to reach out to me with any further questions or concerns. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you to those of you watching along at home. Have a great night.